Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters Encounters video. I thought I would do another one of these in here while I'm continuing with your suggestions. Please keep them coming. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up those suggestions sometime soon. But I had a lot of fun the other day when I was talking about the world of gnomes again. And so I found this one here, dated about 3 years back. There again on the reddit.com website. They're from a subreddit that I use every now and then called Humanoid Encounters. I thought this was an interesting little take when it comes to the world of gnomes because for a brief moment, and you'll hear about this more in a minute, there was almost a chance that this user actually went into the world of gnomes, just very, very briefly. And you'll know more again in just a moment. But it comes from a user by the name of no underscore replacement 7358. And they titled theirs as I saw a gnome, but I don't think I was supposed to see him. So let's go ahead and let's share this encounter here. You're going to see some similarities with other items I've mentioned about gnomes, and I'll give my own thoughts and opinions on it too. Popular subject, I can see why, because gnomes themselves are just fascinating entities, whatever they are. And so I'm always happy to share another item like this. So here's what they state. Another Redditor suggested to also post this story here, so here it goes. This is a throwaway account because I have told this story to no one except for my family, who get angry every time I bring it up. If you had a similar experience, please feel free to share it. So when I was in elementary school, me and my family used to spend all summer at my great uncle's house. Me and my family slept in the same room, except for my sister, who would sleep on a bed in the living room, and my great uncle would sleep in his own room. That one was a pretty normal day. So we went to the beach, we ate some pizza, and then around 10 p.m., we all went to sleep. At around 4 a.m., I suddenly woke up because someone was throwing things around the kitchen: plastic cups, containers, food, etc. The door was open, so I was able to see that there was a light coming from the kitchen. So when I had enough of all that noise, I got up from the bed. At first, something seemed off. I thought I was having some sort of strange dream, and as any rational kid would do, I tried to see if I could bend fire like an ATLA. Who wouldn't want to fire a bin, right? I couldn't, so I knew that I wasn't dreaming. My father wasn't in his bed, but I didn't care much since maybe he was just in the bathroom. My great uncle was fairly old. He had trouble sleeping at night, so I thought maybe he just went into the kitchen to get some water. And so I asked, Uncle, are you all right? All this noise woke me up. I said this while making my way over to the kitchen. To my surprise, I found that the room was empty, the light was on, and the fridge was open, and there was a can of Coke laying right in front of it. And so I thought, what? And as I looked up to the shelf over to my right, I finally saw what was making that noise. There was some sort of short creature, around 30 centimeters tall, a gnome, you'd say, who was now looking at me terrified. He was terrified because I saw him. I thought to myself, he's going to hurt me. I better if I fake it to faint. And so I did. After a couple of seconds, I opened my eyes and I saw that I wasn't on the kitchen floor anymore. I was now in a strange, colorful tunnel. And so I got scared again, closed my eyes one more time, and after a minute that felt like eternity, I reopened them, and now I was laying in my bed. There were still sounds coming from the kitchen, but I was scared and just waited for them to stop. And so before sunrise, they did. Now, this wasn't the only encounter I had with that little dude, but I never saw it again. I'd only hear him because I was and still am scared to see him again. I don't know what he was doing exactly, but I'm sure I wasn't supposed to see him. I know it sounds crazy, but feel free to ask anything or ask me anything about this. Then that's it. That's everything associated with that user. No replacement 7358. So let's talk about that here. So as you can see, this was back when he was in elementary school. So this was a little while back for him. But he was stating that this occurred over at his great uncle's house. Now, he did not say where this house was. If it was there in Mexico or somewhere in that area, Central America, I think it would have been more on the lines of a duende, which I've chronicled in some of my other past videos as well. So for this purpose, I'm just assuming it's here in America, but again, I wish he would have listed something involving that location. But he was woken up 4 a.m. by what sounded like things being thrown around in his kitchen, and then that's when he went to look. He didn't see what he's expected, like in terms of his uncle being there, maybe his dad. His dad was mentioned as being gone too, but I wonder where his dad was. He mentioned that maybe he was in the bathroom, but he didn't really check on it. But either way, though, he went over there, didn't see what was making the noise, but the kitchen light was off, but there was definitely something coming from the kitchen uh, fridge light because it was open. And then that's when he saw it. He described it as being 30 centimeters tall, looking like a gnome. So I imagine it was short stature, like with the squat face, maybe the fat little body, maybe even a hat of sorts. He didn't mention that though, but I'm going to presume that that's what happened. But most importantly, when he saw it and this thing saw him, he saw how frightened it was because he realized that this thing must have thought that they were by themselves, that they shouldn't be caught. And then all of a sudden they were. What were they doing in the kitchen? It seems like they were there trying to get something from the fridge. So maybe they were in turn getting a late night snack, if you will. And so maybe there was something that the uncle would allow back then. That's another story involving the world of duendes that I remember. It was the idea that you have almost like a co-partnership when it comes to those creatures, at least in certain parts of the world. You let them be. You basically have them run free as long as they kind of know the invisible rule of not messing with you and vice versa. And that way, it's almost like a symbiotic partnership, almost like roommates, if you will. The idea that these things are there and they can be gone afterward, but they also like to be left alone. So that's the impression that I got here. Maybe the uncle had this friendship with this duende slash gnome, and in turn, it was supposed to be rummaging about, but if but for the fact this gnome did not realize that the family was staying over, and when that happened and they looked up and they just happened to see someone else staring at them, they thought, oh no. And then when things took another turn is that the user decided to fake like he was fainting, thinking that that would get things done and the gnome would be gone. But he woke up, at least quote unquote, woke up, opened his eyes, in other words. And then that's when he saw what he described as something along the lines like a rainbow tunnel. So I was mentioning that earlier, like it was a strange, colorful tunnel almost as if he was going into their world. Like whatever this gnome was doing at the time, it almost like decided to escape. And when that happened, I got the impression it was opening some kind of portal, for lack of a better word. And that portal would look something along the lines of a strange, colorful tunnel, and inadvertently was bringing in this user. So that's the impression that I got. The user definitely didn't see much because they closed their eyes for another minute, and then lo and behold, they were back in their bed afterward. So, how did they get there too? Did the gnome have anything to do on that end? Either way, though, he stated that he did hear this gnome afterward and in other occasions, but they didn't want to do anything else in terms of seeing them again, like getting up, going to the other room, interacting with them, even by accident. They didn't take any more chances. They just pretty much let the gnome be. And again, that ties into the world of Duende. One last things too. Some of the other people in the comments were mentioning the same things too. They were saying about duendes in Mexico, and there was another one stating about their dad having almost like a little buddy relationship with, friendship, in other words, with the duendes there again in Mexico. And then another one was stating about a town called Uririo, which I'm presuming is there also in Mexico. But interesting stuff. So let me know what you guys and gals think about this encounter. Inadvertent encounter with a gnome, almost transported, it seems like, to another world. And then they were back in their bed. So let me know what you guys think. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.